So I thought I would take a little, not a hiatus, but a little break from documentaries for a couple weeks. Obviously, I'm working on them, but I thought I'd revamp my podcast and bring that back and talk to people. And the first podcast I ever did was with my father, Steve. And somehow some people got a hold of it, some family members, some people saw it on the internet. I totally forgot about it, and they brought it to my attention, and they enjoyed it. And so it gave me the idea to bring it back. And now I'm trying to freshen up the little production. There might be a little bit of an upgrade. We got 2 camera angles now, and hopefully less cuss words this time around. But I decided to bring my father back for the season 2, I guess you would say, of this podcast. And so I have a couple notes with me in front of me just to refer to. But I thought I would just start from the beginning and let this conversation unfold organically, off the cuff, obviously. And I'm going to split it, I guess, into 2 parts. We'll see the first part is kind of your history, my father's history, life history, and then kind of tie into modern times, maybe some modern wisdom, and just kind of keep up with the times. But for the first half, I want to get into the history of my father's life. So without further ado, welcome, Father.
Welcome, Oscar. My first son, my first child.
So without saying your last name, what is your first name? Who are you? Where were you born? And I guess what year were you born?
This intro is so long I can't remember my last name. I was...
What's your name?
My name is Steve. So, my mom and dad came. My dad worked for the railroad. Let me give you a little history of that.
Speaking to the mic.
Okay, well, yeah. Hello, Mike. So, my mom and dad, my dad was from Wisconsin, my mom was Minnesota. Maybe I've already talked about this, but I'm going to talk about it again because I like the story. So, my mom had already lost her mother, her sister, and her brother. Her dad was still alive, and she was late teens, early 20s. She lived in Minnesota. I can't remember what job she had. She wasn't in school. But my dad, he was in a band.
And just for the listeners, what time would this be? What, early 20th century?
I would say probably the late 20s.
1920s?
1920s. And so he was traveling around with his band. And they were kind of well known. Not big time, but they were well known. He played the saxophone and he sang a little bit. And they wound up doing... their tour took them to Minnesota, and my mom happened to be at the club thing they were at, and they met. Anyway, so my mom was really enthralled with him, primarily because of his saxophone musician abilities. And his singing, and then his personality, once she actually met him, and I don't know how they met, it's none of my business anyway. So they got along, and they started dating when my dad would circle the Midwest and come back into town, I guess. And they fell in love. And my dad got a opportunity with his band, and you can fact check this, but I think my dad had an opportunity to play with Red Nichols, who was a pretty famous band back then for a little while. But anyway, that didn't happen. Or maybe he did, maybe one or two sets. But he got an opportunity to go on a cruise and play with his band on a cruise ship, which is a real big deal back then. But, and my mom was living in Wilton, Minnesota, which is on the real west coast. Anyway.
West coast of Minnesota.
West of Minnesota.
Just fact checking you.
Sorry. Yeah, everybody does that. But anyway, so he decided to quit. He just wasn't going to go on the tour because he was in love with my mom. So they got married, and my dad did all kinds of stuff, working at the railroad, a yard. He built there was a lot of snow in Wilton, the little town that they lived in. So he helped. I remember the story about him building a lift for skiers up the mountain. And he actually was the mayor of Wilton for a while. Anyway, they fell in love. And
started having babies.
They had babies. My oldest brother, Arden. And so my dad, I think he got a job for the railroad when the railroad came through town. And he got a job working for them. So he did that for a long time. And then my brother Ted was born there. And then my sister, Gretchen, she was born there too. And it's a long time ago, and I wasn't involved with it, so I'm just going by stories that I picked up from my mom and dad. But anyway, but my dad hated Minnesota because of the winters, so much snow. So they had the 3 babies, and my dad had an opportunity to transfer with the railroad out to California, and they wound up in, I think first in Bieber, which is way up north.
California?
California. I think I took you and your sister through there one time when we were driving through there. But anyway, so they wound up there. And then my dad got transferred, I think, to Healdsburg, California. And then one other spot. And then he wound up in Willits. Oh, in Bieber, according to my Aunt Nita, my dad's sister, my dad got a little frisky, and all of a sudden, my brother Jeff was born in Bieber. And so they went to Healdsburg, and then they came to Willits in 1951. My dad was still working for the railroad. I'm not quite sure what he did. I think he did Morse code. He did a lot of stuff in the front office of the depot. But anyway, so then, according to my Aunt Nita, my dad's sister, he got frisky again, and I was born.
What year?
1952, but one day short of 1953. But I always like to say that, 1952. Now I don't like to say it because it makes me seem older, but back in the day, it was pretty cool. I was older than all my friends. Anyway, so I was born there, and my dad still worked for the railroad. So that's it.
Well, I'm interested in history in itself, American history. But the 1950s were very important time, I guess, post World War II. Right after World War II, the world started becoming more, or America itself started becoming more advanced.
Baby boomers, baby.
Yeah. So compared to now, or when I was growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, in retrospect, what was the 1950s like for a kid growing up in a small town in Northern California?
I look back at it now. It's wonderful. Small town. My dad worked 7 days a week. My mom, too, for the most part, after I got to kindergarten. But even before that,
Poor family, middle class, rich.
no, we were, my dad worked for the railroad. He wasn't making much money. So, no, we lived in a 2-bedroom house. We had a stairs upstairs, so it was 3-bedroom. Upstairs, where my brother Jeff and I lived. But, no, we lived in a house that was worth about $700. I don't know. But I didn't know. I didn't care. We had a nice backyard. My dad built a fish pond, and we kept big fish in the fish pond. It had a garage, a back garage where my oldest brother lived for a while.
But like the 50s themselves, growing up in that time, I mean, it obviously was 70-something years ago, 60-plus years ago. But what is it? I mean, looking back all these years,
I had no.
What was it like compared to, us? I don't want to get into the smartphones and everyone's in the world is crazy because every generation in the world is crazy.
Well, if I compare it now, or even 25 years ago when you were a baby and your sister were just coming along, it was different. When I grew up, it was, I can't get into politics or any of that crap, but there were a lot of World War II veterans, and like I say, we're called the baby boomers. That war ended, and all of a sudden there's a lot of babies. But life was, for a kid, I mean, I went, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, early years, get on my bike in the morning, take off, get with friends, walk down the railroad tracks, grab our fishing poles, go fishing, whatever. But we had to be back by sunset. And that was just routine. It was no big deal.
Yeah.
But when you guys were that young in the 90s, forget about it. We had to keep an eye on you constantly.
But I didn't really write this one down, but what do you think changed? Because I hear about not just the 50s, 60s, 70s. Obviously, people were getting kidnapped and there was crime all around either way. But back then, you were capable of riding your bike late at night, or your parents didn't have to be on you like that, and you weren't so much susceptible to violence or danger or crime. But nowadays, I feel like it is rampant, or it just seems like back then, back in my day, we could go out all night as little kids, or, what do you think changed?
I think
I worded that so bad.
I think it's true. No, that's fine. I think that's true. But Oscar, I had a dog. His name was Frog. And we used to go downtown. Beautiful dog, wonderful dog. A shepherd.
A German Shepherd?
No.
Australian?
No, I don't know.
A shepherd.
No, a collie. I'm sorry, it wasn't a shepherd, it was a collie. Anyway, he doesn't know what he was. But anyway, I mean, we would walk downtown, which was a very small town. He would go to a stoplight in front of us, or me, and I was like, Frog, what are you doing? And the light turned red, and he would stop and wait for it to turn green. Then he would go across the street, and then I would follow him. That's one of my favorite memories. Frog was a super dog. But anyway, so the culture, it's hard for me to say, because back then you didn't have cell phones, and we didn't watch TV except for,
Was there a stranger danger thing back then?
Nah.
Nah.
I mean, it could have been.
I mean, it's not like they didn't exist. I'm just.
Oh, there were some bad guys, but we didn't hear about much of that. We just fished and did our stuff. So, to the comparison between the 50s and now, It's just the
Innocence, maybe?
not innocence, ignorance. We didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have, Facebook and all that other crap, which people get all their news from nowadays. So everything is scary. Back then, whatever. There could have been some pervert down the street. We wouldn't know about it. Well, we might, but not like today. So has it really deteriorated? I can't tell you, because the news part deteriorated. The information that we received and communicated, it's totally different. But the people themselves, I don't know. Societal, culturally, I don't know if it was that much different.
And speaking about different, your childhood specifically for you as an individual was a little different because of what, 1953, 1954, something happened to you? What year?
I became the governor of Illinois. I was young, and people appreciated that. I was still peeing my pants. No, I caught polio. Before, I think I was a year and a half, 16 months old or something like that.
1953, give or take.
So 1950, maybe 54.
Okay, first of all, when did the vaccine for polio come out?
Well, it came out in like 55, but it never made it to Willits until like 56 or 57. I eventually got it. But when I caught polio in 50, like I say, I was just started walking. So 1954, early 54.
So you essentially don't even remember what it's like to walk normally, or you've never experienced...
Yeah, kind of. Well, no, I think
running.
I kind of make it my own mind, because I started walking when I was just a little over a year old. Nah, I can't really remember.
But I've asked you about this the first two podcasts we did. I'm assuming I've asked about polio sometime during it because it's interesting to me. But now that I'm a little more mature and I'm a better host of a podcast, I'll try to take a different outlook on it.
Oh.
But essentially, they can't see you. Only they could see you.
Oh.
How does one navigate those waters of getting polio at 2 years old? You're essentially your leg is dead forever. And I didn't realize this till later, but a lot of people died from polio. Growing up with you as my dad, I just thought, if you had polio, you're like my dad with your whatever leg that got it doesn't essentially work, and you walk with a limp, you can't run and do certain things. I didn't realize hundreds of thousands of people have died from polio. So essentially, you were one of the lucky ones, considering that you had this disease.
There's two types of polio. One was bulbar and one was paralytic. I had paralytic, which destroyed my leg, basically. Bulbar is when you saw the videos of kids and babies in iron lungs, they call them.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that more or less died. Well, paralytic could kill you too, but fortunately I only got it where it took my right hip all the way down to my leg, basically, and just killed the muscle. But I was so young, from my own viewpoint, not from others, my parents and stuff, but my viewpoint, I had to get around. So I learned to walk with an exaggerated limp, obviously, but just by throwing my leg forward.
So is that something you taught yourself?
Oh yeah,
You had to.
I had no choice. So I wanted to walk. I wanted to play with my friends and my family and stuff. So I learned how to just fling my leg forward, step on it just for a couple of seconds, but it was enough. If I locked my knee, I couldn't, not with a bended knee, because I would just collapse, which I've done hundreds of times over my life. But for the most part, I could lock the knee in for a few seconds and then move my good leg forward and walk with a big time limp. So that's how I grew up.
I'm thinking like if I was knowing how insecure I could be or so irritated with myself or such a self-deprecating kind of personality I have or how down I get on myself throughout my life. How does one like you in the 50s, was there bullying involved? Was there self-doubt in your mind? Like how do you like, again, how do you navigate these waters of like everyone around me at a young age, we're all running around playing sports, and not that you didn't do that, and we'll get into, you know, you playing baseball and being a great pitcher, but how do you, especially at a young age where your brain's not matured yet and your personality hasn't fully developed as a man and you're still a kid, how do you prosper through having a bum leg, essentially?
I don't know if I prospered.
I mean,
It was tough, but again, I had it so young that everybody else limped. I'm the one that could walk, right?
It's a good
That was
perspective.
my thought. This is how I grew up. But when I started to get older, kindergarten, whatever, 6, 7 years old, little old ladies would tap me on the head when I was walking up the hill to go to kindergarten or school. Oh, poor buddy. Yeah, you have a bum leg. But I didn't really pick up on that.
You didn't like the sympathy.
No, well, I didn't like that because I didn't really realize I had I called it a dumb leg. I thought they were saying I had a dumb leg. And I picked up on that. I said, you got that right, lady. I have a dumb leg. It's useless. Piece of crap. But, all my life, I called it a dumb leg.
I mean, how many surgeries did you have before, like, let's say the age of 10?
3, I think. 3 or 4.
I mean, how many surgeries in total on your leg?
Oh, 5 or 6. But to answer your question, growing up, I just felt that, I had a dumb leg. I couldn't run. That's one thing for sure. Because all my friends were running, and I played basketball or baseball and kickball and all that stuff. I couldn't run. And sometimes, whether I had surgery or not, I would have to use crutches when I did sports. So that was frustrating because of my dumb leg. But I got pretty good at doing some sports activities that didn't require me to run.
I want to get to that, but before, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Was there bullying involved? Were people dogging on you for having a dumb leg?
What's bowling mean?
Bullying.
Oh, bullying.
Making fun of you, teasing
I
you.
had that. Oh, sure.
Because you hear bullying these days, or I mean, when I was in school too, like there's just this huge emphasis on anti-bullying, which for the most part I agree. But when you have a physical disorder like that,
yeah, I had a few. I remember we come from Bechtel Grove, so
into the mic. Sorry.
So probably in the 2nd grade, I guess, 2nd or 3rd grade. I was walking home down the hill to get to our house, and I was with my brother, and I don't know why. But anyway, so we were walking, and this guy, he was my brother's age. He was like 3 years older, 10 or 11 or 12. And as we were walking, he was walking toward us, he and his buddies, and I didn't know it I kind of knew it at the time, but he had a reputation of being a bully, a gang or whatever. And he made fun of me. He didn't hit me or anything, but he pretended he was going to hit me because of the way I walked. And my brother Jeff, bless his heart, even though the other guy was he was same age, but he was bigger than my brother Jeff. My brother didn't, I don't remember him hitting him, but he backed him off.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one incident of bullying. Another time, years later, when I was like 11 or 12, playing basketball, and this guy joined us, and I couldn't run, or bounce around much, but I got to, because of practice a lot, I could shoot the basketball pretty good. I mean, not 3-pointers but I could shoot the basketball pretty good. And I shot one shot. We were playing 3-on-3, I think. And this guy came up after we won this 3-on-3 game. He just hit me in the stomach. I mean, just really hard. Knocked the wind out of me. And he goes, yeah, you call me a cripple or something. Anyway, so yeah, I had some experiences with that, but
I have a feeling that you don't care.
I didn't.
You didn't really cared.
I didn't really think about it.
That's why you didn't pass that straight down to me, obviously, because if that if that happened to me, I would turn into a homicidal person, which is not a good or a cool thing. But you strike me as obviously I didn't know you as a kid, but you strike me as a kid that didn't really whatever. It is what it is. I have a bum leg. I have polio. I can't do anything about it. What do you like? Sorry.
I kind of had that reputation apparently, because when I was like in the 4th or 5th grade, this I don't know. My mom told me, or actually it wasn't my mom. The teacher at my school, Becker Grove, said that they would like me, Steve, to talk to and maybe even help, quote unquote, some other kids that had polio. Now, they weren't from Willits, apparently, but they had, some were better off than me, some were in bad shape in wheelchairs. Well, there was like 4 or 5. And they asked me to just chat with them. I don't know at the time, looking back, I said maybe because I was physically doing stuff, right? Playing basketball, football, kickball, all that stuff. Well, apparently I had a reputation where they wanted for me to see if I could help others. Again, back then I didn't even understand it. That I just knew that, yeah, that's right, I got a bad leg, and these other kids, it was like 3 boys and 2 girls, I think, that were pretty crippled, or a couple of them. But man, we weren't playing basketball or anything. I was just talking to them, walking around. It was at the basketball court. That's where I met him a couple times, actually. And, but man, crying, oh, I can't
kids?
walk, yeah, they can't. I said, no, you'll be all right. Yeah, it's fine. Well, how do you do it? Well, I don't know. I love basketball. I love kickball. But
I have questions now.
So it was just, you reminded me of that, and I was just thinking about that. And I didn't really do anything. And I guess the teachers, or 2 of them, maybe 3 of them, that set this thing up for me to talk to these kids. And apparently back then they wanted me to encourage them or show them that, it could be okay. But man, I mean, one kid, he was in better shape than me. I think he had polio from his arm or something. And I always, well, I can't do this. So I just said, you can play basketball with one arm. You don't need both, or whatever. I don't know. I was 10 years old. So anyway, that reminds me of that. So you asked the question whether it made me introverted or whatever.
No, just, well, it's funny. I'm learning more about your personality as I ask this. Not so much learning more, but it's reminding me of you as my dad. The amount of times I've done, up until, my even now, how old I am now, where I've come at you with complaints or fucking, I'm trying not, I said my first cuss word. I'm trying not to cuss ever again.
Oh, ever fucking do that again?
Where I complain or have these complaints and stresses, and you always, my mother has told me this many times too, but you always kind of told me, don't be a victim. And it sounds like you had that mindset from a very early age, from someone who could easily come with a victim mindset because they don't have a proper leg that can function. Meaning you have more of an excuse than someone like me. Like, what am I complaining about? So I guess what I'm saying is you've always had that kind of don't have a victim mentality. And that has helped me immensely as I've gotten older and entered my late 20s to not be a victim. Not to get all sidetracked, but that just reminds me, if you're going to teach these kids or help these kids that have the same disease and disability that you have, and they're complaining and you're in the same boat as them and you're telling them it's not that bad, use your other arm for basketball, it's not that hard. I think that's pretty not enlightening. What's the word? It's just important because I feel like a lot of people, especially these days, are a bunch of whiny babies and everything sucks. Shut up.
That's true, and I've been asked that question not just because of that, just because of how I live my life with baseball and basketball, and I could throw a football, Oscar, big time.
So could I.
But
started smoking weed.
Like me, I could throw a football 3 times. Just okay.
I could throw
it
anyway,
yeah. But that's kind of the attitude. My thing was, and I've said that before. Maybe it's because I was fortunate to catch polio when I was a year old, just after I started to walk. So I just got used to it. That's just I had a dumb leg. I don't know, but I don't know how to answer your question as far as victimhood.
Well, just you clearly didn't ever have a victim mentality. You could easily be a little bitch and just talk shit.
Well, these kids were. They were. That was frustrating. You're right. When they're like, Dad, I can't. Why? No. How can you do this? How can you play basketball and stuff like that? So I told my teachers. Actually, I didn't tell them anything. I said, I don't know if I can help these guys. But so my point is, I guess, is how I grew up. It was my thinking, my life, my mentality.
You're never a victim. You're never
Well, yeah, it was a victim. I mean, I've been a victim plenty of times. When you were born, I became a victim. But no, you're right.
I mean, because I kind of wrote down in my notes, like, your social life, persevering through this, clearly didn't have too much of an effect on you. You clearly had a glass half full mindset.
Oscar?
Yeah.
It's more than just persevering. Let me get to when I've told you this story. I'm going to tell it again because it's one of my stories I always think about. I always think about. Maybe 3 or 4 times a day.
Talking to the mic.
Oh, sorry. But when we moved from our original house to San Francisco Street in Willits, there was a place, and I guess I was like 10 years old, but I already got into listening to the Giants baseball. Willie Mays and those guys.
Rest in peace.
Oh, man, I love baseball. I just got hooked. But there was when the Cardinals would come to town, Bob Gibson, the pitcher. And for some reason, I just got hooked on him. There was no TV. Well, there was, but I didn't watch it. I just listened to him on the transistor radio. And the way they were describing Bob Gibson's pitches and stuff. So I used to go, after school, I would go down to this building up the street from where we lived. And it was an abandoned building. It was like a Union gas station warehouse or whatever. But they had taken the Union sign off, so it left a mark on the wall. So I said, that's my target. So I go across the street. with my brother's mitt. I didn't have a mitt, a glove, and a ball. And I would just step off the curb, that was my mound, and throw it. And try to hit that every time. And I did that every day after school for like 2 hours. Man, my arm was killing me. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was fine, but I just got better at hitting it. I'm like, whatever. And Bill Hinton, who lived like 3 houses down, it was a dead-end street, but he lived 3 houses down from where we lived, and he worked in a lumber yard, like his 3 brothers. And one day he was coming down, so I'd stop pitching. I'd see his truck coming down the street, and one day he just stopped right in the middle of the street, past, where I was throwing. He goes, "Steve," and I go, "Yeah, Bill, Uncle Bill." He goes, "Well, why don't you just throw me a couple?" So he opened his trunk and he pulled out a catcher's mask. All right, and a catcher's glove. And he goes, "Why don't you throw me a couple pitches? Will you do that?" Okay. So I got out in the middle of the street and I threw him about 3 or 4 pitches. And then hit his mark, hit the glove. And he goes, "Do you ever want to play baseball?" I goes, "Oh, yeah, I love baseball. I want to play, but I can't run. I can bat, I think." He goes, "Okay." So he got back into his truck, drove down the street, parked in front of my mom's house, my mom and dad's house. And so I threw it 4 more pitches, and I go, he's still there. So I started walking down the street toward my house. And then when I got there, he was leaving. He got into his truck, and he drove 3 houses and went home. So I went into the house, and my mom was kind of crying. "Mom, you okay?" "Oh, yeah. And I said, she goes, "Well, I got to talk to your dad." I said, "Okay, what happened?" She goes, "Well, Bill stopped, and he asked me if you could try out for baseball." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Stevie," she said, "Stevie, you can't run." I said, "I know." But she goes, "I got to talk to your dad." Okay. So the next day, my dad came home, but the next day they said, "Stevie, do you want to try out for baseball?" And I said, "Okay, what's that mean, try out?" "Well, you got to go to the field, and they're going to throw pitches and hit balls to you." And I go, "Okay." So I hadn't done a lot of, I did some, but I didn't a lot of playing outfield and crap. So anyway, I know this is a long story, but it brings back some emotional stuff for me. So I'm there, and there's 20 of us kids. So I got my brother's glove, and so I think I hit, and I didn't have to run. I just had to show that I could hit the ball. So I think I hit a couple of the singles, and then Bill. Now I look back at it, I think Bill was a sneaky son of a bitch, because he didn't have anybody pitch. We had a couple of people pitch, but he didn't have me pitch. So I had to go to the outfield. So I went to the outfield and hit a ball, and I was backing up, and I fell backwards and missed the ball. So did all that crap. So they called us all in. So okay, Coach blank. Who's your pick? I picked Johnny blah blah. So they went through all 20. I was the last one, and Bill says, "Yeah, I'll take him." So I said, "No kidding, I'm going to play Little League." So I said, "Okay, all right." So I told, when I got home, I was on my bike, and I got home, and I said, I'm going to play on the Cardinals, Bill Hinton's team. And my mom and dad said, my dad goes, yeah, good job, Sue. He didn't give me a high five. He shook my hand. My mom, she didn't start crying, but she just said, okay, all right. So I'm sure they had some conversations about it. But anyway, so Bill came down and says, okay, the first day of practice is blah, blah, at the field. And I was with, guys I knew, good guys. So he picked a pretty good team. So I just started practicing. But he mainly had me do pitching because I couldn't run. So he had me play, I think, second base or maybe first base, so I didn't have to run, but I did a little bit of that. But for the most part, he just had me pitch. Anyway, to make a long story even longer, first day of Little League, and I was 12 at the time. It was my last time being able to play Little League. Only time I played Little League. I didn't play any of the years before that. But anyway, prior to that, a couple days, it was raining out, so Bill worked in the lumberyard, so he had all the team practice and meet under this big building inside. And he goes, okay, everybody. So we all gathered up, and he pulled out a piece of paper. He goes, all right, Larry, you're catching. Johnny, you're first base, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, Steve, you're pitching. Oh, everybody, they didn't start crying, but they go, whoa, he is pretty good, but geez, Coach Bill? He goes, yeah, Steve's a pretty good pitcher. Oh, yeah, I guess so. So anyway.
Let me stop you right there. How important was this Bill Hinton guy in your life?
He was good. I mean,
think about it. He just gave this little crippled kid a chance to play sports.
Big Bill. That's why I'm telling this story now. I wouldn't know about Bill. Guy worked in the lumberyard. And his older brother, Earl, he was a neighbor at another house we lived in. I could tell you stories about his niece.
Well, that will take a long.
Oh, that would take a long time.
Or short time, that like was, 5 minutes maybe.
No, I could tell you stories about getting naked. But anyway, so Bill said, "Yeah, Stevie, you're a good pitcher. You've already proven that. So you're starting." So anyway, they started Little League first game of the season. I think we played the second game. And so I go out on the mound. And, because I couldn't run, they had a deal with the head of the Little League that I could have a runner. They could put a runner, but he had to stand back. When I was at the plate, he had to stand behind me before he ran. So anyway, I was so scared shitless. But I started pitching. I did good. First inning. And even the guys behind me go, hey, Steve, hey. So the second inning, still no runs. And we scored like 7 runs in the first 2 innings. Anyway, we wound up winning the game. I pitched the whole game, 6 innings. We won, I think, 16-3. And yeah, I remember that. We finished the game, walked off the field. My dad, I don't know if that was the game, but there's one game. I think it was the game. He was on the top of the bleachers, little kids' bleachers, but the bleachers. I think he fell over backwards onto the ground. Anyway, so I guess my sister was with him too. But anyway, so we're walking out of the dugout and stuff, and like 3 or 4 of the guys picked me up and put me on their shoulders and carried me.
So you're reliving these stories. You're getting a little emotional thinking about it.
I am, Oscar. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Aren't your front teeth fake from getting hit in the mouth from a catcher's mask?
Oh, that was not a good story to tell.
We don't need to get into it.
But that was the first game. So anyway, that was my
Are you
thing.
going to talk us through every single game that you've played?
I'm going to talk you through practices. I'm going to talk about when I went to bed
Get
at
him out of
night.
here. Get him out of here.
No, but anyway, I was just going to say that was, as far as a memory of my life, that's a big deal. Because I couldn't run, but I could throw. And I've heard that in my class reunion 3 years ago when you and Amy took me up there. Oh, man, I remember trying to hit against you, Steve. Couldn't hit the ball. But anyway, so...
I was such a better pitcher than you.
Oh, no. So anyway, but I could never go pitch beyond that because they wouldn't allow, they didn't have a rule for runners. So I would have to run, and it would take me 20 minutes to come from first to home plate to first.
Okay, let's move on from...
You were going to ask me something else.
No. I mean, yeah, you don't know it yet. If I hear one more baseball story, I'm just kidding. So, obviously, you persevered. You played baseball. In high school, became the class president. Do I want to get into that? No, because I hear it about once a week.
Once a week, I never talk about that crap.
I just wanted to say that to make it sound cooler on the podcast, like I'm funny or something. Anyways.
I think the only reason I became class president because I got kicked out.
For having long hair?
I had long hair. They had in the newspaper, they put in the Willits News that there's a new code at Willits High School that boys couldn't have their hair touching their top of their ear or a mustache. Girls had to have their skirts, their dresses, had to wear dresses, but couldn't be 2 inches above their knee or something. And so I think it was just, I didn't do it. I refused. And another friend of mine, it's John Boyd. He grew a mustache. He wouldn't shave it off. So I got to school, and the vice principal called me and says, "Yeah, Steve, you're a good-looking guy. Just go ahead and get it cut." And I said, "I'm better looking with my hair." So I got kicked out of school. Anyway, I stayed out for a week, and I can't believe my dad let me do that. But my mom appreciated it, my protest. But she finally said, "Okay, Steve, you're going to have to go back to school." But anyway, I got my hair cut, went back. A couple of weeks later, I was voted the president of the class.
Well,
the best looking guy.
So we started off with polio and how you had to persevere. You became a good pitcher. You became the class president. But I really want to know, because this is something that you definitely passed down to me, because obviously I'm acting on it right now, is your knack for creativity in the arts, not painting, not drawing, but visual arts, media, journalism, filming, directing, using a camera. I mean, growing up in Willits, obviously, especially at this point, we're talking late 60s. Your family, your dad, your brothers were really good with their hands, working on the railroad, inventing things, woodwork, doing all this cool, exactly. And you weren't cut from that cloth in this sense, because you're the first person I know to make a stop motion video on a Super 8 camera.
Brilliant.
Whatever. I'm just saying, where do you think that came from? And I'm going to put clips of the battery video, for example, or Chafee on the tennis court, these stop motion videos and these films that you made. I'm going to use them as examples and throw the clips in. But where do you think that came from? Because no one else was doing that.
Just my brilliant mind.
Oh, I knew that was
I can say, well, I'll talk about that in a second. But my dad, my dad retired from the railroad, and my oldest brother and Jeff, my other brother. But my dad and my oldest brother, they started a company after my dad retired from the railroad, building fancy-ass redwood furniture. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they had some ups and downs, but they wound up doing really well. And So, just to put in that perspective. So they had the talents and stuff. I mean, I worked in their shops and stuff, but my dad and my oldest brother, man, they could design neat stuff. And it sold really well. Nameplates, redwood nameplates. And then they had advertisements of Joe Frazier putting one up in his house, front of his house. So they did good. So, but my brother Ted and I couldn't do that stuff. My brother Ted went to become a lawyer, then a judge, and I, went to prison. But I started out in high school. My junior year of high school, I took a class from Mr. Garcia. Great guy, just an absolute wonderful guy, instructor. But he started this thing called a TV workshop. So he was going to teach all of whoever went to his class, there wasn't that many of us, to do TV production. So I signed up for it. And anyway, I got into it. I got pretty good at it. And he used to use me a lot, not just to produce stuff, but I was the anchor man. And so that's how I got into it, and I enjoyed it. And so when I graduated, I went to college here in Santa Rosa. And I one of my, Bill Bigby, just a brilliant professor. He was into kind of different types of video and stuff like that. So I got into that. And then in San Francisco, obviously, that's where I got my degree in broadcast communications.
I think I'm specific because I've always been like, not mind blown, but like the stop motion. Because I tried to do stop motion with my little wrestlers when I was a little kid on a camcorder. I used to have my Goldberg and my Diamond Dallas Page and my Sting set up, and I would stop record, stop record, stop record, stop record.
It's hard, huh? It's hard.
It took about 3 weeks just to get him to move
No
5
kidding.
inches. But I'm saying you were using a Super 8. Like, where did that come from?
Super 8, I don't know, to be honest with you. Oscar, in fact, I was thinking about that, I don't know.
What year did you make that?
Last
1971?
week or 8 months ago. 1970. When did I graduate high school? 71? So it's probably 71 or 70. Because I had Joe Sinek and Jack Davis help me with it. And we went up. I had the idea in my head, and I didn't even know where I got the idea, but I wanted to do a stop motion. So I used to go up. It was a little attic, a fishing room that my dad had built above the garage. And I used to go up there and I go, okay, let me see, what can I do? Do a stop motion with my Super 8, not Super 8, just 8mm camera. And then I would go get it developed and bring it back. And I go, yeah, I can do that. Anyway, so I asked Jack, I wrote this little script. I said, this is what I want to do with the batteries flying into outer space or whatever. So we did it. And they helped me out. It took us all day long because you have to move a battery, half an inch, half an inch, half an inch, half an inch. And so that's basically what we did.
I'm not saying you're the first stop motion person ever, obviously, but to me, it's just like that's a crazy idea for a Super 8 before technology was good in any way, and you were doing that.
It wasn't popular.
But also Chafee, your friend Chafee, on the tennis court, and having him sit.
Yeah, that
and
was
sit
fun.
and sit, stop recording.
So that was at San Francisco State. That's after we went to college. He and I were both at San Francisco State.
Why did you go to San Francisco State?
Because of that. Because to get into their broadcast, communication, filmmaking.
So did you have a goal in mind? I guess I'm asking this not just for this podcast, but because I'm chasing a degree right now in a very similar degree, a similar area, and I want to know, is this a hereditary thing? Am I getting this passed on to me? Like, what was your goal? What was your plan when you were doing this? What did you want to be? Because
You don't remember what
Walter Cronkite?
You were only 3 weeks old when I used to hold you in my arms.
Yeah, I don't
rock
really
you to
remember.
sleep. I said, Oscar, you gotta get into stop motion. Yeah. No, you do. Shut up. Stop motion, baby. No,
Not
I don't know.
stop.
I just got into it.
I'm not
'cause it
talking
was
about
fun.
stop motion. I'm talking about broadcast.
Just generally broadcasting. Well, started in high school. That's where I got interested in that stuff. It wasn't real popular back in the 70s, but early 70s. So I just got interested, and my teacher, Mr. Garcia, he said I was really good when I was doing the voiceovers, the on the screen stuff, and then going out with the camera. In fact, I was the first one to do a football game. Went up to the tower on a Friday night and recorded the football game. I did a terrible job. I didn't prepare. I knew all the guys on our team, but I didn't know anybody. So I'd go, there's Jeffrey Stevens throwing the ball in number 14 on the other guy. It was stupid. But the thing of it is, they broadcast it the next day from their local cable TV for people to watch. But anyway, so I got into it, and it was just so much fun. So, but on the creativity side, I already told you that story about the fish. My brother motorcycle through it. That was fun.
But
and I got an award for that.
But beside the creativity part, obviously you got into it and you figured out you had a little bit of a passion and hobby/passion.
Yeah.
But when you're going to from a small town, then you go to San Francisco State and you chase a degree. I guess what I'm asking is, what were your plans career-wise? Like every college kid goes to college and they think that they're gonna enter one field and gonna be this and that. What was your back in 1971, 2, 3, 20-year-old kid? What was the idea? What was the idea for broadcast journalism?
Even though I was real good at the creative side, doing the films we're talking about here, I did a whole bunch. I wish, Oscar, I still had some of the films I did, but they're on half-inch tape that you don't see anymore. But I still think I have some around here. But so I did it was just being creative. That's what kept me in college, because if I was going to go do mathematics or history, I wouldn't have made it through college. I would have quit. I would have even gone to begin with. But I really liked doing the video stuff and the broadcasting, and I was pretty good at doing, hey, it's 6 o'clock, it's time for the evening news. I'm Steve DeYoung.
Well, a lot of those fools sound so corny when you look at them. They sound so phony and fake, and at least that's how I look at it. Or did you notice that? Did you ever want to? I feel like you told me this before. Like you noticed it was just such a phony business. Hey, I'm Steve, and this is.
Yeah, and that's not. I did that, but I was good at it.
I mean,
Right.
you could be good at it, no, for sure.
I wasn't phony, Oscars. That's what you're asking me.
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
Poopy face. But, so that's where I was going to get a job. But no, I wanted to do sports documentaries or just filmmaking. Just make some crazy-ass films. But sports is what I really wanted to do. But I'm not going to get into... When I graduated... I applied for a job. Oh, my dad and I. I set up some interviews because my couple of professors I had really liked me. And one of them, he was a producer in the Bay Area, and he set me up for the interview with a country and western radio station in Oakland, to go do their news and stuff. And I was so cocky because I really did good in college. I started thinking about it, and I go, I don't want to do radio. I want to do TV with my blue eyes. So I canceled out. I had an interview set up, but I canceled it out. Are you sure, Steve? Yeah. I'm doing video, baby. So my dad and I drove up to Eureka, a TV station there, so they put me in the studio and to do the sports, and I just totally screwed up. I mean, I heard them laughing in the control room. Okay, that didn't work out real good. But I got up to Klamath Falls, I think it was Klamath Falls, Oregon, and for my next one. My dad was sitting in the car, so I went in, and so they put me in the studio. It's a lot nicer studio, it's like what I was used to at SS State. So I did my thing, and I learned from the Eureka one where I just didn't read. I just said, all right, blah, 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 blah. And they actually asked me to keep going, and so I did. So I finished it up, and the program manager for the station came out and goes, Steve, you did a really good job. Excellent. We would love to have you on our station. And so, okay, good. But we gotta wait a couple of weeks. We got a couple more people we need to do a test with. So I got home, back to Willits. I didn't hear anything. So I called him a few weeks later. I said,
What's
Bill
up?
or whatever his name is, I didn't hear anything. He goes, you know what, Steve? I shouldn't say this on broadcast, but he goes, you know what, Steve? You did great. We really liked you. We wanted you. We agreed. But the management didn't need another blue-eyed
White guy.
They needed so we hired actually a black guy who's working in the front office or whatever. And at first I was really pissed. Not so much of that. I didn't get the job because I did such a good job. But I understood. And we knew that even our professors said, okay, if you look at the stations, Channel 5, 7, 3, it's always a bunch of white guys. We need to start diversifying, quote unquote.
Yeah, they all look the same.
Yeah.
All
so
the white
So I
anchors.
understood it.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. So.
But was that kind of your by you not getting that job? Because I want to get into
it. Wasn't the end. I went down to L.A. to some stations down there, San Diego. I just ran out of money.
Well, I kind of wanted to because before this time, during this time, and after this time, you've had many of them. And where I'm currently at in life, I'm now finally narrowing down my career path. I want to move that a little close to me. It's going to fall off.
That's cool.
I'm narrowing down my career path, as in I'm more steady with my job, and the jobs that I have been involved in are more on the same kind of path, which is definitely different from my late teens and early 20s where they were basically all over the place.
Right.
And I've had job experience in basically any industry you could think of for the most part, or any sort of odd job I've dabbled in.
Yep.
As a late teenager, early 20-year-old, mid 20-year-old. And I bring this up because you have managed a pizza parlor. You've worked as a telephone man. You've worked graveyard shift at a sawmill. You've cleaned bathrooms at a train station. You've sold newspapers. That's, I'm assuming, way more than that. But eventually having a 35-year career at Lockheed Martin. But in retrospect, how important and crucial were these different odd jobs and different experiences you've had? How important is that in shaping who you are as a man or as a person? Because I feel like a lot of people, not to bring up these days, but I can speak for myself, I remember being in these shitty retail jobs or cleaning up bathrooms or getting bit by dogs, working as a vet assistant. I really questioned, what am I doing? But now I'm almost 28 years old, and I'm still not even close to being the career established man that I want to be, but I'm getting closer every day. And looking back, even 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, at all these jobs that I've had, as shitty as the schedules were, I remember working 16-hour shifts as an electrician in Red Bluff, California, at 105-degree weather, 110-degree weather, complaining about it. But now, looking back, it has shaped me and has taught me, like, the path that I'm on is I'm here now because of these jobs. Can you touch on that in your personal experience? I'm thinking sawmill, selling newspapers, cleaning up shit in a bathroom at a train station, which eventually led to your illustrious career. But you know what I'm saying? All these different random jobs. How did it shape you as a man, as a human? How does that teach you resilience, perseverance, and just a good attitude? What a good fucking question that was. I don't care about cussing.
Well, I know that's a great question. I just don't have an answer. I was a screw up on all of them.
And,
I was a terrible bathroom cleaner. I can complain about the fact that women's bathrooms were harder to clean than men's.
I 100% agree.
What the hell are they doing? It didn't change me sexually, but I had disrespect for some women. When I worked at the graveyard shift, I only lasted a few weeks because of my bad leg. I standing there all night long, sawing logs, and I couldn't handle it anymore. I got a job. I was supposed to paint the school that I grew up in. These were all summer jobs when I was going to college, and but I inhaled some. Well, I was allergic to some of the stuff that I used to clean the building, so I got really sick. So I had to quit that job. Let's see. So I can't say that I learned a whole lot from any of those. When I got to...
I'm not saying learned as in, like, skill learning. I'm talking about, like,
I had to work. I had to work to make... When I went back after college and I went with all these job interviews for doing the broadcast crap, and that wasn't working out. But I was back in Willits living with my mom and dad, and that wasn't going to work. Love my mom and dad, but what the hell am I doing? I was going down shooting pool and drinking beer at night at the local places in Willits. And I said, I didn't want to do this. So my friend Chafee had a job working in the pizza parlor down in South San Francisco. He invited me to come down. So I said, okay. So anyway, I started that. And I really liked it was a bartender, but it was actually a nice pizza place, more than just a pizza parlor. They had a big fireplace in the middle. The people sit around and eat their pizza and stuff. But it was just beer and wine. So I learned to become a bartender, but it was fun. I got a lot of people that would come into the bar every night just to hang out and bullshit with me and tell jokes and stuff. So that was kind of fun, but they liked me there, so they moved me up to assistant manager, and then as junior manager, then they made me the manager of the store. Then they moved me to someplace in San Bruno, another store. But I said, what am I doing? I don't want to do this. I learned, but it was going so way too fast to do all the book work in the morning, and order all the supplies and stuff. So anyway, did I meet her? Yeah. I married a girl that worked at the first pizza parlor, and she had a friend whose mom worked at the phone company. So then what? So I thought about becoming a phone man. Anyway, I quit that job.
You became a phone man.
And I got a job as a telephone man, and I was not good at it. In fact, they transferred me to Lockheed
Martin.
Yeah, I was in Redwood City, just going to people's houses and tearing down their phones. So they sent me to Lockheed. No, it wasn't Lockheed Martin then. It was Lockheed. And so I got a job there, and I was just pulling cables. And you and I were talking about unions earlier today. And I shouldn't say it. Well, I'm going to say it because I'm close to 100 years old. But in order to be there, they wanted you to become a union guy. And I thought about it, and I go, I don't know if I want to be a union. Because they were telling me, you get protection, you get this. But I just want to work. I just want to make as much money as I can. So I wasn't very good but I was very fast. I used to get in my truck, and Lockheed had 40,000 people working for them at the time, so I'd be all over the place driving around. I was just repairing phones and installing phones, and this is way before the AT&T breakup. But they had 2 repairmen, and they'd say, Steve, you're our favorite guy because we have to go every time you install something, we got to go repair it. But it keeps us busy. But anyway, but these guys at lunchtime, they would go to our meeting place, which is a fancy-ass cafeteria at one of the Lockheed buildings, and they would hang around and bullshit and complain about the job and stuff. And I said, this is boring. Yeah, but we're union. They get us an hour, and so if we take an extra half an hour, no big deal. So I had another new guy, Jeff, I think his name was. So I sit with him. I said, you know what, Jeff? I think I can get 5 jobs done this afternoon. How many can you get? He goes, I can get 6. Let's go. And we'd run out, get in our trucks and go do the job.
Do you mind telling this story while I go pee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please. In fact, you can just stay in there and take a dump if you want.
Keep going. So he said 5 jobs, you said 6. Keep going.
Yeah. So, nope. You can't hear it. Just go ahead and pee your pants, Oscar. It's okay.
Well, you're still getting picked up, so just
First
go.
it's warm, then it's cold. Don't worry about it. So, anyway, so we got into kind of a contest every day, but we would leave the lunch early, leave the older guys that have been there for 100 years, and so that turned out to be kind of a game for us. Just how much work we could actually get done instead of sitting around and complaining about the job and everything else. So I got to the people that gave us the orders, the communications department. They would, I just got to know them. And then they found out I had a degree. So a job came up and they offered me the job. So I got it, and that's how I started my career. And it went from just being I think I was called a communications coordinator.
That's so funny.
Up to a senior manager at Lockheed.
Communications coordinator is the position that I'm going for.
Yeah. No, it was great. Yeah, it was wonderful.
So looking back,
I loved it.
Looking back, you happy with your career at Lockheed?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could have gone further. I didn't hire in to do communications. I hired in because I wanted to produce videos. And they had their own educational video production department. And I swear to God, I was hired in after 3 months. They decided to outsource it and have somebody else doing it. Well, you saw the video I did as a volunteer. So anyway, but overall, as it worked out, I got good at what I did. I bounced around to different jobs, not just communications, but other jobs. So and I met some great people, and Lockheed was, engineering-wise and ingenuity-wise, brilliant company.
So it all paid off.
Oh, yeah.
From working at a sawmill, scooping up human feces. And
in the female department.
no, I agree. So I don't want you to get specific with your money. Don't worry, we're not going to go too much longer. But I will say, you made a good career financially. You've owned homes and you had kids. You got married. You did the whole shabam. Right now, the economy is in shambles. I don't care what anyone says. A majority of people are struggling financially more than they've struggled in recent times, whether it's at the gas station, the grocery store, whatever. But at the same time, money is the root of all evil, and there's the greed aspect involved. So coming from someone who, no, you weren't balling out of control, and you don't have Lamborghinis, and you didn't have mansions, but you had a successful, relatively well-off career that allowed you to be retired for the last, almost 15 years, and and you're fine. What I'm getting at is, from your perspective, and maybe you can give some advice, because I want to close this off in the next 20 minutes or so with you kind of giving OG wisdom. How important is money, and is it really that important? Is it more important than happiness? Can you only be happy if you have money? I guess it's going to be hard to be a happy-go-lucky person if you're struggling all the time, because I know what it's like to struggle financially. It's absolutely horrible. We need it to survive. But how important, I guess, looking back, how important is money? Is it more important than most things, or is it more important to just have a job that can get you by, that you actually enjoy, rather than maybe you make a lot of money but you absolutely hate your job? I'm kind of making this question way too long and confusing in more than one part.
Well, you said 20 minutes, because my answer is going to be about 3.5 seconds. I don't remember what the question was.
Oh no!
No, I get what you're saying. No,
how important is money?
Money.
I mean,
money was less important to me, I suppose, because when I was in my 40s when you and Amy were born, and I was climbing up the ladder and doing all that crap, making more money, and we bought a house just before you were born. So that was really good, but I more or less, I made it advanced, corporate-wide, after you and Amy were born. But the money I was never struggling with it, right?
My son, sorry.
Oh.
I heard my son.
Little booger. Anyway, money's just that. It's just a something that you get for working, right? Some people don't agree with that. They cheat you and they gamble and they rob banks and stuff. But so money is not as important as enjoying your work, being okay with, you don't have to, I can't wait to get to work. I love it. That'd be nice to have. But my whole time with Lockheed, even the phone company, I had no issues. It wasn't money. I just, I love the people I work with. I met some brilliant people. I've been retired for 15 years, but I still have friends. They come visit me, and if I was still driving, I would drive down to San Jose and visit them. But we still chat and do Facebook and all that crap. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question.
No, that answered my question.
Just if you find something that you want to do. I had a degree in broadcast communications. I wanted to do sports documentaries or filmmaking. I didn't do any of it. I wound up being an administrative job, being a manager of people and
IT
endeavors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which was good. I mean, it was satisfying, and financially, it worked out for me. But that's it. It wasn't so much the money. I enjoyed the people I work with and whatever. I can't give you anything more fantastic than that.
All right. I
hope it helps you.
Yeah. Watch your mouth.
Yeah, okay.
A couple more things. I think younger people need older people advice these days. Younger as in me and younger. I'm 27, but younger-ish people. Just we're so wrapped up in this world. And I had a coworker, my boss. She was like,
It was a coworker.
Yeah, but she's older. She's very older. She's in her 60s, my boss. And she basically was saying, I'm listening to so-and-so. The world is crazy right now because about 3 days ago, our former president almost got his face blown off by an AR-15 round. And that's just part of an insane world in the last 4 or 5 years. And it feels like a lot of people are on edge in their own ways of very divisive. You protested the Vietnam War. You were around working for Lockheed when 9/11 happened. That's one of my farthest back memories is seeing the buildings on fire in 2001. You protested the Vietnam War. You've seen so many different ups and downs in the world, global conflicts, national conflicts. In today's climate, obviously you're up to date with what's going on in the world. Is today, in modern times with the two different wars going on, what just happened to Trump almost getting his face blown off, the post-COVID pandemic era, are these the most like divisive / like kind of eerie, surreal times that you've lived in your 71 years?
No.
Explain.
Well, not much to explain. I mean, it's just life. You know, it's social. The Trump thing, I mean, it was a 20-year-old insane person, derelict, loser, who learned how to shoot a gun and, for whatever reason, shot him, tried to kill him, shot another person, killed him. Unbelievable. So, but that's an incident. Terrible, terrible incident.
I don't really just
But it has nothing to do with...
But not just that. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but like not just that incident. I'm talking about, I don't even want to get into COVID. Ukraine, Russia invading Ukraine, Palestine.
Vietnam was bad. Vietnam was real bad.
Yeah. I guess the word I want to say is divisive.
World War II was really bad.
That was divisive? The worst. Divisive in our country. As a Republican Democrat.
Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like it. But that comes and goes, right? It was pretty divisive when Reagan. It was way before your time.
Okay.
Clinton. I mean, that's political crap.
Yeah, I've never paid attention to.
Yeah, it's not so much divisive. It's divisive as much as you can make it. Right? I'm not into politics with regards politics as a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, okay, I don't want to cut you off. I just got a notification that my storage is almost full. So
that's really good because my brain's almost full too, and it's about ready to melt over my ears, and these things are going to fall off.
Let's just close this out. Give advice. Give advice. Oh, shit. Yeah, it's not working.
Nope.
Okay, it's not working. Sorry that we had to cut this off.
It's nice meeting you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was good. About almost 2 hours.
No shit.
Yeah, 2 hours. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. If you lasted this long, sorry I just ran into some shit, but I appreciate your time, Father.
Yeah, no problem. Good night.
Oscar off the cuff, out.
Jeez. Was it 2 hours? What time is it?